pause now. Yeah. Whose idea was this? Anyway, I know. I was asked by Jamie to come along and talk tonight a little bit about, as Jamie said so eloquently in his introduction there, at Paul Church, we did things. Now, first and foremost, please, I am not here going, look at me, aren't I clever? All right, I only did things that I was inspired to, that I was led to, as did many other churches, centres and places across the land, regardless of affiliation, regardless of their religion, because we needed, when that first lockdown kicked in March 23rd, that time, I'm sure you all remember that first morning of looking out at empty streets and silence and thinking, what are we going to do? What's happening? I don't know. This is so, this is alien to us. And it threw people in amongst that energy, in amongst that time. It gave us time to reflect. I always say that our psychic network opened up. And I'll give examples like, who remembers toilet rolls? Yes? Everybody. Why? Why did everybody run out and buy toilet rolls? It wasn't on the news, but it was just suddenly this mass thing of going out and buying as many toilet rolls as you possibly could. I believe very firmly that as we went into that silence, that time, and when you look at what we do within our circles, we sit in the quiet, we sit to open up. That to one degree or another, everybody opened up, regardless of their orthodoxy, regardless of their way of life, their creed, their religion, their awareness started to come in. And that really wrong-footed a lot of people because they have no understanding of psychism or spiritualism or anything like that. So it really put a lot of people off. But within our movement, spiritualists, regardless, again, it doesn't matter about, we're not talking affiliations here. We've got so many organisations, they've all got the same word in their title, spiritualists. So to me, we are all one. We thought, how can we continue? What can we do? I was led onto a platform which was StreamYard, which was, it's my baby. I do love my StreamYard. It's great for presentations, but by a very nice lady down in Weymouth, Ashley Oliver. And from there, it just happened. And it was inspirational because when we talk about mediumship, we do have this view of saying a medium, and automatically we have somebody like myself or Jamie or the lovely Arisha there, or Jan as well, who's yet to get on the platform, but it's about time. Getting up here and working and giving that evidence. No. Mediumship, a medium is the interface between two different substances. So in our case, it's between the spirit world or the etheric world and the material world. How that mediumship unfolds is within your energy, it's within your soul's journey. So we may be referring to healing mediums, evidential mediums, philosophical mediums, trance mediums. So it started already to sort of like stir the pot a bit of where we were within our movement and our religion. I had so many wonderful people say, yes, of course we'll talk for you. You know, people I'm thinking, I'm going to ask them, they're going to say, no, go away. And he came back and said, yes, we'd love to talk to you. One of them was wonderful Simon James from Canada, where he and his partner, Brian, run the Inner Quest Foundation. Marvellous gentleman, huge reserves of knowledge and wonderful books. And he said something which I found quite evocative. He was confined to the UK during the first lockdown. So being here, he went out and served a few places. And this is what he actually said on one of our Saturday night things. He said, I was quite disappointed. He said, because I left the UK 30 years ago, and where I've come back, it's a bit like the same parties going on, and nothing's changed. I found that really powerful, because we had got into a state, and this is not meant offensively or challengingly, this is meant in the energy of debates, where a lot of our churches and centres have fallen into a pattern, and Paul was the same, we were no different before COVID, of, well, thank you, Jamie, that was a lovely demonstration of mediumship. Next week, we've got a really good medium. And it was like this endless cycle of communication. I likened it to being in a court case. It's like we've been in a court case for 30 odd years, hearing the evidence. Well, actually, do you know what? It really is time we started coming to the conclusion and how we can work with spirit. This time taught us so much, so much, because where we in Paul went online fairly quickly, first of all on StreamYard, then over to the Zoom platform, we were having mediums not only from the UK and all over the UK, but further afield, abroad, through Europe, through the Baltic states, in America. And we could open up this dialogue with people, not only from the point of view of hearing mediumship in its evidential state, but talking about spiritualism, which was really very interesting. One of the facts that came to light very early on was in Europe. In many countries, spiritualism isn't a recognized religion. Therefore, they have no churches. But when you come to the UK, I'm sure you all agree, different areas, you can't turn around without falling over a spiritualist church or centre. You know, we have so many. So I found that very interesting on how the Europeans develop their communication, their link with spirit, when they haven't got the ability to hop down the road to a spiritualist church. They have to organise events, usually in places out of town, and also a little bit on the quiet. It wouldn't be advertised like we do here, it would be word of mouth. Oh yeah, come along, you'd enjoy this. So I found that absolutely fascinating. It also made me realise this huge torch that the UK carries for spiritualism, regardless of affiliations. You know, we have so many beautiful churches sent to this place. It's lovely. When you walk in here, it covers you, which I absolutely adore. We have so many places, but we have limited, in my opinion, and if you disagree, please do, because this is an interaction. We have limited spirit in what they can do, because suddenly we realised that I could be doing an evening here in Paul and talking to, say, my bestest friend in the world, Jack, over in Denmark, and giving messages and giving philosophy, and in online circles working in healing. And that actually, when we think about it, it just sort of like breaks down all the barriers that we had built. You know, I'm sure some of you have come across many of the old saying, you know, what was it? If you don't want the medium to come to you, cross your legs. That was somebody used to say. You can't have children in the church because it distracts the medium. You can't have a dog in the church because it will distract. And we just sort of like built this huge wall between us and spirit with this tiny little place where we could actually approach spirit. This time took away a lot of that. Because as I say, if we can interact tonight, we've got beautiful people. We've got the lovely Marion there in Scotland. Hello, darling. We got Myra over in Iceland, or no, yes, over there. Suddenly we can come together. And suddenly we can come together and talk. I was talking with the lovely Arisha today about the medium's journey. And there is a very true saying, the evidential medium, or any medium's journey, is a lone journey, but it need not be alone. Our course for progression is pertinent to us. It is our unfoldment. But it doesn't say anywhere that we have to do that on our own. And we suddenly found through the medium of the online that we could talk to others on similar pathways and share ideas and discuss and actually be able to open up. The life of an evidential medium going around the churches is you turn up to the church, you go and sit in the quiet room, you come out, you do your bit, you may say a quick hello to people, and that's it. That's all the interaction. But with the advent of the online, and I know Jamie here went on to Zoom, the people can actually sit and start talking about spiritualism, talking about how we feel, talking about our own development in whatever field we work in, and where we may get sticky points. You know, I'm in circle and I'm just stuck at this level and I can't progress, and little things like that. So none of us wanted to be there with COVID. None of us. However, as is in our spirit, we find the best. Whatever situation we're in, we look for the light. We look for that part that will keep us going and we can focus on. So we suddenly had access to people all over the world. We had access to online services. We had access to healing circles, healing minutes online at the tap of a button. It's forever changed spiritualism in the UK. It's Pandora's box. It's happened and it will never go away. What we need to start looking at now is the evolution of where we are going with this communication. There's many experiments being carried out. Tonight is experimental in the fact that we're working not only with the church physical, but the church virtual as well. Trying out things. Some things will take foothold. Some things will grow. Other things may not. I'm sure, hands up who has watched online demonstrations of mediumship, evidential mediumship. And hands up those people who may have watched one and thought, what am I watching? What is this? Yeah. There are everything. Everything is a double-edged sword. Whatever you get, there's always going to be other facets to it that we've got to be aware of. Sadly, we are seeing, what was it the other week? I could go in and adjust my Akashic records, which sounds absolutely wonderful. You know, going back and changing everything you've done wrong in the past and making it right. It only costs you £600. This is a bargain, isn't it? Absolutely. It's like, oh, thank you, I'll sign up for that. In fact, I need to sign up for that twice. But anyway, there are things out there like that. But it also has that brilliant edge where it starts to bring in community. And especially when we reopened after the first lockdown, many, many people were still isolating. They were still at home. They still, for whatever reason, were unable to be in the church physical. So that online presence kept those people nourished, kept those people part of what's going on, kept those people able to celebrate their religion, their understanding. The other interesting thing that happened as well, when we reopened the churches, we all had an influx of very new people coming in because, of course, our mortality had been challenged. Suddenly, we were faced with the very real and hideous prospect of not being here tomorrow, or the one you love the most in the world not being here tomorrow. And that had a really profound effect on a lot of people. Because I'm sure you'll agree, pre-COVID, it was just like, you know, people used to say, oh, I don't know where the year's going, because we were on this endless treadmill, and we never really dealt with the things that matter. We're not talking about work here. We're not talking about money here. We're not talking about our new car or our latest holiday or our Facebook photo. We're talking about the things that matter. The person that you say goodbye to in the morning, the person that you phone up, the person that you love, the person in the mirror. So it really hit us on a fundamental level. So an awful lot of people, and it's not just spiritualist churches, the Orthodox churches report the same, this huge influx of people looking for something, an answer, an understanding. Within our movement, as I say, we were very fortunate and still are where we have so many churches. But we have changed. Society has changed. If you remember back, a very common, I can't wait for it to get back to normal. Well, it took quite a while for everybody to realise that we couldn't go back to normal because 2 years had passed. And, you know, normal was 2 years ago. And we can't do that. So we've got to look at what we're dealing with today. The world today outside those doors. People today that we just heard out there shouting away and having a rare on time, whatever they're up to. The life that we live. In spiritualism, through the philosophy, we get so much guidance, so much understanding, so many ways of being able to look at what's happening, not only to the world, but to us. And maybe just make it that bit easier. But also in spiritualism, and most importantly, when an evidential medium does their job correctly, you give that evidence of the continuity of life. That when we shut our eyes here, we open them into a new world, that we are the same. We don't suddenly grow wings and sit on a cloud playing a harp or a guitar. We continue in life. With those two fundamentals, we should be seeing our churches and centres absolutely rammed. Absolutely. We should be going back to the heady days of the 30s and 40s, when many churches, if you didn't get there about 45 minutes before the service, you wouldn't get in. But we're not. And this is something we've got to look at. This is something we've got to ask ourselves some really hard questions. And especially this is going out for people who run churches and centres. Why aren't we getting people in? Why are we having falling attendances? Jamie was saying that Paul Church is, at this time, doing remarkably well. Obviously, the advent of the online and engagement that we did was fantastic and drew in a lot of people, but it's also about the energies and about the way we are with people. And it's about what we talk about and present spiritualism as. You know, we shouldn't be going down the road of little fluffy things and, you know, all this is all wonderful. It's talking about life. We talk to people about life. We have a laugh. Those of you who know me, I know I'm noted for my humour, but I don't know why. But we have a laugh and we make people welcome, because we need to start bringing community back within our churches. We need to start looking at our congregations, walking through the door, sitting down, nobody talking to them, have the service and walk out the door? Or are we actively there talking to people? Are we actively saying, hello, oh, you're new here, oh, welcome, you know, toilets are over there. Bringing people in and bringing people together. On the churches and centres side of running things, this is well within your capabilities and hands, just to look at the experience somebody has when they come into a church or a centre. And this is not a sales initiative. It's just sometimes fresh eyes. Because this time as well has really highlighted some of the frailties that our churches and centres have because of committees of advanced years. Because trying to get the younger generation is one of these hit and miss things. I came into spiritualism through my parents at the age of 13. And I remember hearing then, we've got to get the younger people in. No offence to anybody. The minute I tried to bring in something a little bit modern, I was met with quite a lot of resistance. So we're saying we've got to get younger people in, but we don't want to change anything. Well, the world changes. Every day, the world changes. And spirit change with that. We need to bring in that relationship once more with spirit. Because we often hear spirit being talked about like it's a bit of a balloon on the string at the end of your arm, like that, oh, the spirit world. Oh, spirit, say this. The spirit's here, we're spirit. Spirit are talking to us all the time. They are today. They are more alive than we are. So I'm not saying being disrespectful or tear down the old, by no means, because I'm a very big one for honouring ancestors, honouring traditions. But there are ways and means of retaining the energy of the tradition, but presenting it in a modern way. I went to a service just recently, and I was sat there and I thought, this is very interesting, because it was very orthodox. The hymns were very orthodox. The tenure was very, and I thought, I'm sorry, this is not my spiritualism. I'm not saying we all sit out there and shout and yeah, but we can sit there and have a laugh if a little joke comes in or a bit of humour. And I know some people go, no, you shouldn't have that humour. Why not? Spirit friends have the greatest. I'm sat at home sometimes actually killing myself with laughter. If anybody saw me, they'd probably lock me up because they love that laughter. The choice of music, something uplifting, something joyous. I think that's been forgotten in some places. The joy. You live forever. There is no death. There is the passing of this physical, but you, the essence of you and you and you and everybody in here, continues. What more joy do you want than that? Evidential mediumship needs to be brought forward more to really try and get those distinct links with the communications. To learn and understand the difference between a psychic reading and a truly spiritual evidential reading. And to create this atmosphere of community and education within our churches and centres. At Paul Church, our library has never been so busy, and I am just so happy about that. I absolutely love it. People will come up and say, what do you think I should read? Or I've just read this, I'm not sure about it, what else should we do? I love that because people are taking a bit of ownership. You're no longer coming in, sitting down for an hour and a half and then going home. You actually come into church because you're going to interact with people. You're going to be able to find something to start nourishing the mind. You're going to find something that might start you on your own pathway, be it evidential mediumship, be it philosophical, be it working within the church, be it healing. Healing ministry has never been so busy. Our healing ministry at Paul, we have 24 registered healers within the church, ranging from 26 to 82. And it's a whole different approach to healing because it's open, it's encouraging. And yes, some people come in and it's not for them. That's fine. There is nothing wrong with that. You seem sometimes to be a little bit frightened of making a mistake. You seem to be a little bit frightened sometimes of trying something new, because what if it doesn't work? Well, let's look at that. What if it doesn't work? You go, okay, the idea's sound, the execution failed. So what can I do to change that? Because we need to start being really progressive within our churches and centres. And this is only just beginning. We're looking at the world today is pretty much visually pre-COVID. Energetically, it is not. Energetically, there is concern, there is fear out there. The new, well, hands up, does anybody still watch the news? Yeah. Many people have turned away from it because this is continual. Be afraid. Separate yourself, isolate yourself, stay away from people. But that's not right. That's not right. There was a time it was needed. I do not dispute that. But one of the things we really should have taken away from the isolation times is how dependent we are on our interactions with other people. How much that means. You know, we look across our congregations and our churches and centres. We know, we get to know people, we get to know a little bit of their story, but we don't know everybody. We do not know if that person coming here today, that is the only time in their entire life that they ever get to talk to somebody is when they come into a church. Likewise, there may be people coming into the church who come in for quiet, solitude. That's fine. It's bringing all those energies in and realizing that we are part of a progressive future within this movement. We have so much potential available to us to try things, to not be afraid. Because if you have the backing of spirit, what are you afraid of? It's there. And as I say, if it doesn't go exactly the way you thought, there may be a very good reason. So try another tact. The old saying, God loves a trial. This is so true. Because we need to renew that link with the spirit world and the divinity that contains. We need to look at what we're offering our congregations. And we also need at times to be the decision makers, where we will inevitably get, why don't you do so-and-so? Why don't you do so-and-so? Why don't you do so-and-so? And you see some churches and centres falling over themselves trying to lay on all these different workshops, events, or evenings, or whatever, and nobody turns up. I used to laugh at the online when in the first lockdown, people would say, oh yeah, we'll be there for the service. And then they weren't there, and they'd send an apologetic note saying, oh, I'm sorry I couldn't make the service, something came up. And I used to think, what? What came up? We're in a lockdown, are you a burglar? Because that's about the only thing I can think of that would stop you coming in. But that's fine, that's absolutely fine. We have this opportunity now. Get back to the basics of our philosophy, our religion, our way of life. Whatever you call it, it doesn't matter because it's right for you. And when I'm saying the basics, I am talking about communication with spirit in its many forms. So be that through inspiration, be that through healing, be that through circle work, be that through own development, be that through our services, and engaging mediums who can do the job, who are ready to be out on platform. We hear quite often people saying, oh, they shouldn't be on platform, they're not ready yet. Part of that responsibility lies with us. If these people aren't ready yet, don't just say they're not ready. Okay, they need improvement. They need to hone that gift. They need to work on their craft. What opportunities can I offer them? Because we've kept this distance of saying, oh, they're not ready. Okay, if they're not ready, that's fine. None of us were ready straight away. All of us had to start. But we're in that energy now where we can say to them, okay, interesting service. Have you thought about a development circle or doing mentoring? That's getting very popular energy, one-to-one mentoring. And encouraging that growth and keeping it defined. Now, this will make some people slightly uncomfortable. Define that we're working with spirit. We are working with that link between the two worlds, which is evidential, be it through the medium's words, be it through the philosophy, be it through the healing. It has an evidence base. It is logical. It is intelligent. We really need to start getting back to that and really working with that. Looking at our training plans and how we develop people. And are we presenting a cohesive training plan? Or are we leaving our mediums to go and grab a workshop here, a workshop over there, something over there, and there's no time? Are we providing that place where mediums can actually come and talk to each other and share thoughts in their own peer groups? So many opportunities. That's just my little tiny slice of the pie of everything that's available to us. And taking that further afield into the we're fortunate in Paul being independent. If I say tomorrow I want the church painted red, it will get painted red. It will look absolutely awful, so I won't do that, I promise. But I can act. And I fully realise with our larger affiliations and organisations, the larger the organisation, the slower the progress. But that's fine. That's fine as well. Never stand there in the shadow of something feeling intimidated. Stand in the shadow and shine your light and say, well, no, actually, I think we need to progress along this way and keep that momentum going. And work with spirit. Feel spirit. Sense their presence. Now, there's a few saying, but I'm not a medium. Yes, you are, because you're spirit. It's as simple as that. So has anybody got any questions, comments, either in church here or online? Yes. Does anyone feel challenged by what we're saying or disagree? Disagree is fine, absolutely.
In many respects, my question is, I'm working
right.
Those venues very important. And so, in my own family, they don't want to do it.
Yep.
They're not hard songs.
Yeah.
And they never, and I don't force anything.
Yeah.
So the last question is stay my truth. Don't know. It's not just in spiritualism.
Yeah.
Church communities. How do you change that? You've got an aging population. An aging population in spiritualism.
Yep.
No different. But how do you then turn that around and get the right something to show them the culture? That's actually embrace it, see there's something actually very special about it. And we see that message as well.
Correct.
I don't know how you get that.
Sorry.
Can we put that? They won't have, the Zoom people won't have heard the question.
Right. So, lovely gentleman here, just to give a synopsis of what he was just saying. He's a working medium himself, but he's found with his own family there is no interest in spirituality and mediumship and spiritualism. And he's saying about, you know, not only within spiritualism, but also in our orthodox religions, it's an aging population. So the crux, if I'm correct, please correct me if I'm not, is how do we engage with younger generations? Number one, if I knew that, I would actually take out the patent and I would be not having to work for a living ever again. But we can engage. There are promises, you know what, there's so promising signs. I was on a hideously overburdened train today and was stuck in the corridor outside the loo, you know, the salubrious life of the medium, you know, 2.5 hours in 35 degrees outside of a toilet. I thought, oh, God, this is lovely. There was a chap who was, say they're mid-20s, I'm terrible on ages, and a lady, about mid-20s, and we were just talking about things. And I had one of my spiritual books out on top of my suitcase, and the lady noticed it, and she went, oh, what's that about? And I said, oh, this is interesting. I said, what's your view of spirituality? And they had some really interesting views. I am finding within a great majority of younger generations than ourselves, there is already a natural awareness. I hear phrases and I love it. When I first heard it, I just smiled inside. People talking about, oh, we don't go to that bar. We go to the other bar because we've got a really good vibe in there. Yeah, and if you take that sentence, that's not a buzzword. There is already, we are seeing in these younger generations, there's more of an openness of it, but it's how we are going to engage. And as I said, where I went to a service recently, there were 2 young ladies, 2 young guys. And I know they got exactly the same out of that service as I did, which all honesty and no axe to grind, absolutely nothing. I went into a very dry, sterile environment. I had a very scripted, hello, how are you? Are you new? Nice to see you. It was like a concierge script. The music was of a much older generation. The mediumship and the philosophy was interesting, but that entire environment is not going to entice people back in. So with our churches and centres, who we look at, and especially, I mean, you here, Exeter, you've got a massive university here. What sort of input have you got with the university?
None whatsoever.
That's not a...
They don't have a spiritualist society in the trunk.
Right.
I've got one more thing up my sleeve that we'll try to
Wonderful. But this is it. This is where we need to start being out there more with our religion, our philosophy, our understanding, and tailoring. We could tailor evenings. We have certain mediums that could engage with a much younger congregation extremely well. When I was taking out mediums who were on that hinterland between working in circle and actually getting out in platform, I absolutely loved it because they were saying things about, oh, they're just showing me on your Twitter account and stuff like that. And I thought, that's brilliant because that's not in my energy. So I would have missed that.
It's interesting. 2 more teachers. You've got the open, make it known, the open. The reality of doing it, sorry, you get someone living with yourself. majority.
Yeah.
And that's my personal experience.
Yeah.
So what I tend to do is if you want to I won't force anything on because, if I'm two of my brothers, they knew that I was a spiritualist. They would say, you don't need to be in that. Quite simple.
Yeah.
So how can I talk to them about possibility? Because they're not, their pathways mean they're not the same level of awareness and understanding of life. So therefore you can't talk to them. Haven't made the journey.
So then you need to focus your attention, your energies onto those who will listen. I know that sounds very trite, but I do mean it because I know exactly what you mean. I had an interesting experience with my blackboard at my church yesterday. Stay with me, we are on the same level. I'd always written on the blackboard outside the church, divine service with medium's name. And I suddenly thought, what is this telling people? Actually, it's not telling them anything. So I've changed it to our divine services consist of prayer, philosophy, healing, and evidential mediumship. And suddenly people are stopping looking at it because you're actually putting over a clearer message. And some people look at it, and I know damn well they're going, oh yeah, blah, 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 blah. That's fine. It's not our job to drag people out of their orthodoxies. Somebody is entrenched in their orthodoxy of thinking. Well, that's their soul's journey, and that's fine. But where we can excel, where we can engage, is seeing the opportunities. I'm sure that you have this yourself. You're walking down the street, and then somebody will walk past, and you just know their lights are on. Yeah. You just know that if you would say to them something of a spiritual nature, and they
she opened up to me about her own. And then a flash, her own mother's song.
Yeah.
And I didn't, it wasn't from what I said. It was two sentences.
Exactly.
And I will get to our blood pressure.
That is how we work. We take one step at a time. And as I say, it's not our job to drag people out of orthodoxies. It's not our job to to say, oh, you're wrong being a Catholic. Being a Catholic suits them down to the ground, and that's something to be celebrated. I'm a spiritualist. It suits me down to the ground, and I celebrate that. And it's recognising that difference. And it is sad, especially when it becomes within the family and it's perceived to be causing a division. It is sad. It is difficult. You feel like you're living this secret life. But again, it's not our job to drag people out of their orthodoxies. You understand your family better than anybody else. You understand what the implications may or may not be should this come out. So we live by that creed. But bringing that back into our churches and our centres, we should be actively looking for the engagement with anybody. And dealing with it in a way that we can. I've just had a situation with somebody that I've run out of ideas to help them. And I have to say, in the end, I'm really sorry because of the effect upon you and the resulting effect on people that you talk to. We can't have that anymore. And I did feel sad that we hadn't progressed it, but I'm not going to beat myself up because it takes as much energy from these people to help themselves. But we can just keep on, but presenting an educated response. presenting an intelligent response, presenting an engaging response with people who come through the door. I see it in my church. New people come in, how wonderful, lovely to meet you, blah, 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 and you don't see them again. That's life. But we have other people who come in and come back the next week and come back the week after, which is wonderful. But we need to be more open. We need to celebrate what we believe in. This, as I said, I can't emphasize this is a joy. When Spirit comes through, it's a joyous occasion. It's about light. It's about life. It's about upliftment. It's about healing. It's about celebrating, you know, this beautiful weather. Yes, my darling. Yeah. Indeed. A lovely lady here just highlighting that with her own children, they were invited into Orthodox religious places of worship, but not spiritualism. Got that right? So yeah, we should look at ways of how do we engage with different age groups. And of course, that's going to be pertinent to the area that you're in. As I said, a city like this, you have a wonderful opportunity to bring people in. And different speakers, not just on the spiritualism side. What's his name? There was a professor did a talk at one of our local spiritualist churches, and he was talking about the science between the scientific community and spiritualism. Well, that was fascinating. But unfortunately, due to the marketing side of it, it was just a wee bit on the quiet. But that's the sort of thing we should be punting out to local unis, whatever their social media sites are.
There's a couple of comments from people on Zoom.
Keep commenting on Zoom. You behave yourself. Sat there at home.
Who was it? Oh dear. Slow.
This is where somebody comes around doing ice creams and cigarettes.
Yes. There's one comment that I feel that changing the patterns of the service or meeting will open it up to difference. So there's one comment from people on Zoom saying that he feels that the patterns of what we do here should make a difference. So you know, what do you think about that? You know, is that something you want to do?
Well, something we've done at Paul. I have 4 styles of service. Yeah. We have our family gatherings, which is not a church service. We draw on people like you to come up and talk today and tell us about yourself. You know, I'm sure everybody's got a story. There you go. And come up and share that with people. Yeah? You, my darling, you can sing. Yeah. Just for the camera, yes. But drawing on the people, the family, the congregation, the community within the church to get up and talk. We have tables and chairs out. We do tea, coffee, and cakes during that time. It's a completely relaxed time. And it is really well attended. People love it because they can come together and talk. We have our healing hours, which is a variety of either we have a talk from one of our own healing team, or we have a gentleman come in and we'll talk about different types of shamanic healing, followed by a short meditation, and then we hand over to the church leaders. Again, no evidential mediumship. And again, very well attended. We have our Lyceum services, where somebody like Jamie would be ideal. So instead of the philosophical address, we'll talk about the history of spiritualism. Because many people are totally oblivious through the failings of the churches and centres of the wonderful history of spiritualism, of the great things that we have done. Hang on. Of the great things we've done. At the turn of the century, so many social reforms came in through ardent spiritualists, because it was at its peak at that time for that generation. We had so many venerated mediums of different eras, the history, not only in this country, in other countries. We've all heard of the Hidefield Rappings? Yes? No? No? Yeah. So that was the birth of modern spiritualism. I'm sure Jamie will fill you in or give you some reading material. Because it builds that understanding of what we're about. And it builds that understanding. Actually, we have got we have got a really strong foundation. We have got history. We have got something to be proud of. And we need to remember that, because when we stand up here on the platforms, we are standing on the shoulders of people who suffragettes. Spiritualism was a huge movement for women's rights, especially in America. Especially in America. So we've got to honour that and revere that when we work within these temples, centres, churches. We need that understanding. We need to know our lineage. We need to know where we came from in this movement. So that's our Lyceum services. And then after that, every other service is always a divine service, because we have the philosophy and we have the evidential mediumship. And people say to me, well, how long for the philosophy? And don't ask me, ask your team. If your philosophy is 10 minutes, that's fine. If your philosophy is 40 minutes, well, that's fine. We had a wonderful speaker, and I was so annoyed with him when he went to the Spirit. I went, how dare you go and leave me? His philosophy in an hour service would be 40 minutes. And he regularly got a round of applause, because people listened and took in what was said. And it was beautiful. So yes, look at how we run our services. Bring in change and say, don't be afraid of change. If it works, happy days. If it doesn't, go back to where it started going wrong and try again. Anybody else? Yes, sorry. My lovely hostess. Thank you, darling.
One of the things you touched on earlier is about this. Now, I know yourself, and that you might still progress in the areas that you are. But we do our training for our own. We get out on the platform, and it's, hey, how about you're on your own.
Yeah.
If you ask to go back and join somebody else's service, they won't really answer it for already working. You say it's a long journey, but it needs to be alone. And I also believe it was Jack Eckham who said he couldn't believe how hard we worked, our meetings in this country.
Yeah.
It needs to be recognised that the mediums themselves need support. And it is a long journey, because 90% of the time you work on your own. So you go off to a central church, and all your friends on that same are in other centres in church. You're like ships that pass from the light. You don't believe. The medium themselves does not want into contact with a lot of like people. And I would actually like to see implemented in Devon what you and Mark are doing up in Dorset, the support and support groups that are solely for working meetings to come together.
Somebody said that to me when I broached the subject with them in Paul. And they had a very similar saying as you just said about what they do, you know, when you go to join another circle. What are you doing in my circle?
Yeah.
Do you know what my reaction was? Are we really that fragile? Are we really that fragile? You're running a circle, you're running it for spiritual development, full stop. If you're running a circle, you are open to all those suitable to sit within that energy. If we wish to do a circle or a support group, be it in the real world or in the virtual world, for working mediums, I think that's to be applauded, because it gives people a chance. In our healing mediums group, one lady brought up, she went, I'm not sure, about things. She said, everybody on my list is either dying or dead, and I really don't know what to do with it. And everybody chipped in with logic, with experience. So that was brought out, and I thought that was beautiful, and that was part of this energy that's building up now. We're seeing with our platform, our evidential mediums, after this time of COVID, if we've lost, say, about a third of the mediums that we had pre-COVID, that means that additional pressure is now on our evidential mediums. And linked in nicely with what we're saying about the different formats of church services. Where I've changed the services at Paul, instead of 100 mediums a year, I now only need 50 mediums a year. But the church is still functioning, prosperous and popular. But I'm seeing other places where you may have 4 dems a week. So in a year, you've got to find 200 mediums. And that's something that the church committees and centre committees need to actually sort of think about. Have we got the resources to support that programme? Are we working our mediums too hard? I looked at all our local programmes and I saw the trend coming in. Literally, you could take week 1 from one place and put it in week 2, the next place, and week 3, because the pool of mediums has shrunk so much. So we're the ones creating the demand. What are we doing about it? It's a reflection of society, isn't it? We're the ones who have put the enormous strain on everything, and now where things are missing, we're all suffering. So are we doing that within our own movement? It's one thing to say, oh, it's just getting mediums of, the right caliber is really difficult. Yeah, well, you need 200 mediums a year. So maybe if you reduce your demand, you will increase your standards. Just a thought. Thank you.
And that's the thing, where you have to tell you your services as opposed to the conventional service. All I personally thoroughly enjoy it.
Thank you. Because it is a time of coming together, because again, COVID taught us how important community is. And I'm not talking about, and with no disrespect to any church or centre, I'm not talking about putting a coffee morning on with readings. It does seem to be a trend in some churches and say, oh, we're going to have a coffee morning with readings, or we're going to have the afternoon meeting with readings. We're going to have, the shoe shine with readings. We don't need the readings all the time. We don't, I personally, and no offence, baby, I personally like an open platform because I actually feel like I'm talking with people. I actually feel I'm out there amongst you, talking with you, and not up somewhere talking at you. And I'm sure that that energy is reflected from people sat there thinking, will he ever shut up? Is that what you're thinking? As long as that's what you're thinking. But yeah, it's just engaging people. We don't have to prove the continuity of life every time we open the doors. But we do have to bring in that community, that togetherness, that friendship. When I hear people in my church saying about, oh, they went out the other night, a group of them, I think that's great, because that would never have happened. had it been the, come in, sit down, be quiet, only speak when you're spoken to, right, thank you everybody, see you next week. We've got to engender people, we've got to bring people in, we've got to talk with people. Any more questions, sir?
Just try that. I don't know whether they said that, so I was just trying to talk.
Oh, okay.
How much time do you want left for the meeting?
I am not fussed at all. Do you want me to switch over now?
That might be it, might be.
Yeah. So we're going to move over to the evidential mediumship part now. So this is going to be fun. Now this is where normally in some churches they'll play, right, we're going to play a bit of music now to uplift the spirits and the energy. And I just think the energy should be there. And then they come out with something, you know, like the 1920s and, you know, just more suitable for a funeral. So please don't do that to me.
Did you want some music?
No, no, because Trev will complain that it's being, it sounds distorted. Yeah, he did hear, that's all right. So, I'm sure you all know how this works, do we not? So this is a joyous time of communication. And also wonderful people there online, if you could listen in too. If you could use your raised hand emoticon, that'd be wonderful. And similar in here, if I do not go direct, but you understand the evidence given, would you please link in with that? I'd like to come to the lady there in the lovely dress, green, blue, my logical mind shutting down, so forgive me here. I have a motherly energy coming in here. She's just telling me about things with you at the moment. I just know that your health could be better, if you say it that way. I am being drawn to the back here and the shoulders and a lot of aching going on here. But I do know she's saying about you being, you're so busy in your head, aren't you? You organise things. You're really good at doing this and everything. And that's absolutely wonderful. That's a really good gift. It's beautiful. What else is there? Okay. I know also that I'm hearing here that you're a very good confidant for people. If you understand that, people open up to you and will tell you things, and that is a gift to be cherished. That really is. And I'm going to be very honest with you now, because I've just used you as a guinea pig, so please do not take any offence. What did you think of that evidence? How were you with that as a sitting? That was fine. I'll be honest, and this is linking back to what I was talking about the psychic and the spiritualist medium. All I said was, I have a motherly feeling coming in here. I didn't present any evidence.
No.
It was all on the psychic link. And that's something we need to start bearing in mind with our churches and centres. And I'm not dismissing psychics. Psychics are brilliant when they hone their craft. Absolutely awesome. So if you're going to get up and work as a psychic, say you're going to be a psychic. If you're going to get up and work as an evidential medium, be an evidential medium. Now, I have asked Spirit to step in. And again, I have this motherly energy coming in. And as she makes her presence known, I know I've got a loving, loving energy with this lady. I also know that I was firm when I needed to be. I wouldn't like to cross this lady. No, not at all. She's laughing. She's got a nice humour.
She has.
Yes, she definitely has, because she's stood there like that at the moment, and she's looking at me going, careful what you say. And I know, as I'm feeling her energy much more here, I do know I had an active lady here, not towards the end, but I know that in her life she was active. I know I've got a lot of movement around with her. I know Tell me what it is. There would be like a regular walk to a shop or something. There's a regular trip she's talking about going out on. And I know it's quite a distance. Today I'll be thinking, oh no, get me a bike. But I know with this lady, certainly in the earlier years, that's right, we're going back to with her, there was quite a walk. So I know where I lived as well in early life, that it wasn't in a built-up area. I know I was much more in a rural area. Do you understand that, please?
I don't know about the younger, way back on.
Oh, okay, so again, like yourself, this is something that runs in the lineage she's telling me about, the listening to people, because I know she was very active listening to people. Yes. She enjoyed very much her conversations with people. Yes. And a trip to the shops might be like 3 or 4 days by the time I've got back and finished talking to everybody, because I just loved it. And drawing my attention very much to these 2 doves here. So there is this link here with doves. This is something outside of the house we're going on. Put a bird table out in the house, out in the garden, please.
It's not a bird table, but we have a wall and we have doves coming in every day.
Right, wonderful. Because I know that you would understand that. That's fine. Forgive me for not being so clear on that. What do you want to say? She's a natural healer as well.
No.
She is a natural healer.
Okay.
And these things run in the family as well. This is why you find that people are drawn to you to talk, because it's not just your responses, it's your whole energy. You have, you've been in and out of circle work.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not like stuck. It's like I've gone in and not quite, and come back out and gone back in again. I love her humour. I do love her humour, and as she's drawing closer, it's becoming more predominant. Just saying, as with everybody, there is the ability here for healing. And I am talking spiritual healing. I am talking that. I'm not looking at the Reiki disciplines or any other disciplines. I am looking at spiritual healing, channeling. You talk to spiritualists, telling me as well, yes, regularly. And sometimes it's a bit firm.
Yes.
Join the club, love. Join the club. She's laughing about that. She said, oh, we hear you. Yes. There is a gentleman as well in the background here, and I just feel he's being very polite and letting Mum go first here, but he's just there. But as I'm just beginning to bring him into my awareness here, have I got like the old-fashioned, you know, the brown boiler suit, the brown warehouse coat, or where I'd be out tinkering with cars or mechanical? You're not understanding that straight away.
No.
But just as I'm seeing him on there, I'm just getting that energy that this was a very hands-on man.
Yes, he was, yes.
Yeah, so I would, you know, if somebody put a motor in front of me, I'd go, okay, let's see what happens. But I feel also that that was part of his working life as well. In the work field, he was very hands-on with things, creative. I used to be in an office and I used to frustrate me because I'd work all day and I've got nothing to show. This gent would have things to show. Is this a link here as well, please, with some sort of model building? Little model boats and planes? I'm not aware of that. I just shot in. Thank you. Gentleman's coming in, lovely. I'd like to go and have a pint with this man because you would have a good talk and a good laugh and a real belly laugh as well with him. They are both very much around you in support at the moment. Very much. There is a need for this support, which is nobody else's business. They are aware. And we've got your back. So whatever's going on, there is an element of other people's energies coming in, and they're saying, don't worry, we've got your back. If anybody, will do that, and you know we're there. We'll know you're there. I want to be presenting you a massive bunch of yellow daffodils. And the daffodils have a meaning. Yeah. And they are given, and they are beautiful. They are perfect, and they are